hope you enjoyed a small video which helped you understand what is task management. Let's see that in detail. Well, task can be any job, it can be any activity or an event that you plan. It can be a small birthday party or it can be planning for a new restaurant that you have already thought of. It could also be launching your product or your website. Any task or any job is important for an entrepreneur or from anybody in this world. It requires both learned as well as natural skills. Some of you can do your or perform your tasks very well. However, some of you need to learn specific skills to do a particular job. All tasks have something in common. They have a beginning and they have a particular end. It is also thus called as art as well as a science. Let's see the task or the project cycle. The first stage is the initiation stage. The second stage is called as the planning or development stage. The third stage is the production or execution stage. The fourth stage is monitoring or a controlling stage. The fifth or the last stage is the closing stage of the project or the task life cycle. Let's see them in detail one by one. The first one is the initiation stage. As the name implies, it is the beginning phase of any task or a project. At this stage, a project manager is first of all selected. The project manager selected thus will meet with the project sponsor and all the other key stakeholders to determine the business objective of the project. So in case you have a project or a plan to start your own restaurant, once you select or identify a manager, he will start meeting with the architect, with the interior decorator, with the vendors, etc. to take the objectives of your project ahead. The next is he will identify who all are needed on your project team. This typically means to select your team or your employees who will be working with you under that particular project. The key points of this stage is to develop an agreement. Now, agreement is a legal document which jot down all the points of the contract. It also helps in identifying the stakeholders, the partners, the vendors for your project or for your event. It helps you to divide the project into different phases. Let's now have a look at the second stage, which we call it as the planning stage of a project or a task management. It's one of the largest and the most important phases of every project. Why? Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The project manager here will determine the team. It's very important that you first plan or identify a team and then their roles and responsibilities. At this phase, the project manager will begin to develop the different project plans. Do you want to know which are these project plans? Well, let's see them one by one. This can be a communication plan. Yes, communication is needed for any event or activity. If you don't communicate, you can't coordinate well. This will help you how to communicate with your team or with your stakeholders. The second is a risk plan. Yes, it is important that even you plan something if you have a risk or how will you document or how will you escalate the risks. Testing plan. Not all that you plan on paper can be right. So it is important that you test it initially and then go ahead with your project. The schedule or the timeline is another important thing to keep in mind. If you do not have deadlines to follow, the project will not be completed on time ever. Work breakdown structure is a structure or it's a key as it helps to break down the manageable work activities or the tasks. As you know that each team member or each member in the team has the capability or has different skill set, a task will be given to that person as per his or her capabilities so that they can execute it very well. The third stage is the execution. So next we execute whatever we had planned on paper. It should be done by identification of action. So here the team leader should be coordinating with the team members well. This is where you do the work. The phase typically requires most amount of time as most of the work is conducted during this time frame. You will solidify the team and conduct team building exercises because by now all team members know each other very well. They know their strengths and they know their jobs and responsibilities well. Hold progress and status meeting which will help you timely to know the status where and how are you heading your project. Follow the processes in your project plans as if you deviate from the project, it might not help you to meet your objectives. However, sometimes it is important that you have that flexibility or sometimes you recommend some changes and take corrective actions in your plan. Continuous improvement is possible as there is always a scope for improving on either of the resources that you have used for your project. The key points to take away here is to sign off some of the key milestones that are completed during this stage and of course to document the performance report. How are you performing so far on your project well? The next stage is the fourth stage or controlling, which we call it as controlling and monitoring phase. This phase results where new process or products are compared to the metrics you outline in your performance plan. That means you had planned something and whether it is going ahead in the same phase or in the same manner. If not, then there needs to be a change or if there is a change and you need to control that with the help of intervening some newer process. You have to determine the variances and identify if they demand any corrective action or a change and facilitate conflict resolution at this stage, which is done by the project or the team leader. As many people have different perspectives and they may not come up to a same solution at that time, it is important that the team manager resolves the conflict. The key points is to receive all the sign-offs that work is completed as per the requirement and that you store all the project assets so far. Documentation is another important thing that you need to do at this point of time. The fifth stage is a closing stage. Well, this is a final stage of your project life cycle. You have to develop the closure procedures which may include the performance report or handing over the product or the process to the concerned person. It is also involving the releasing of the resources, which is the employees that you have hired probably or the machines that you have hired for your project, and also completing any contract closures which can be your due bills or any liabilities that you have. Well, the key points of this is to receive all the sign-offs, all the work that you have completed so far, recording them as per the project assets and creating those important records or documenting the lessons that you have learned, the mistakes probably that you have learned or the changes that you have incorporated in your entire project plan. We have come to an end and I would like to tell you the references that I have used for this particular presentation have been mentioned here. I thank you all so much and I hope you like the presentation that I made on team management. I wish you all the best for any task you do and to help you further to know more about the team management or the task management or the project management. There is a small quiz link given in the YouTube description box. Do attempt that and thank you so much once again.